This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining me today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
While the rumor mill has been churning around the Pistons potentially bringing back a familiar face, and the Lions have a lot of draft speculation going on, including some input from Mel Kiper. We'll get into it. It's a Fan Report.
It's certainly been an uneventful week in Detroit sports.
Yeah, literally all our topics revolve around speculation.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. So obviously, I can't say it's been an uneventful week in Detroit sports as a whole. We got Tiger baseball back. Spring training has officially begun. Casey Mize looked real nice today. The Wings have actually been playing entertaining hockey. I'm not going to say good hockey, but it's been entertaining. They were able to put together some wins before they were embarrassed in the third period of the game against Chicago the other night. But the Pistons are pretty much maintaining status quo, sometimes entertaining, and sometimes they look like the worst team in the history of basketball, which, honestly, I'm okay with it because it still falls in line with what I want them to do, which is lose. Stay in that bottom three.
They're probably going to pick up a win tomorrow when they play the Raptors with no one playing on the Raptors squad. Did you see who's out for that team?
Is that like the official out list, or is that like the list of people who are involved in contact tracing right now, but negative tests tomorrow will allow them to play?
No, that's like these people will be out on Wednesday.
Really?
Yep. Nick Nurse, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and 9 others.
Well, let's hope the Pistons can find a way to lose it.
Yeah, OG Anunoby's out too. That's going to be...
So it's Kyle Lowry, it's Coach Lowry, and Coach Player Lowry. It's Player Coach. He's pulling a Bill Russell. So I don't know where you want to take things first. Obviously, we have the news of the Pistons being interested in a familiar face, as you mentioned, a guy that we have seen here in the city before. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Dennis Smith Jr.'s performances as of late, especially going in the game up against Derrick Rose and in the battle of the players who were traded for each other. And I believe it was Dwayne Casey came out and said that Dennis Smith Jr.'s looked pretty nice so far, and he's a guy that the Pistons are looking to utilize moving forward as a part of the franchise. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that as well. So let's start there. Was it Dwayne Casey's comments there? I
don't know. I'm not familiar with the comments.
Dwayne Casey or Troy Weaver. I think it was someone in the organization. Maybe it was a beat writer or something. But basically, they said that they've liked the way Dennis Smith Jr. has started his tenure with Detroit, and they hope for him to be a part of the future of this franchise as a guy that could be a key piece. What's kind of your thought process in that regard? Have you liked the way he's played? Have you been disappointed, worried? What?
I'm pretty much in line with those comments. I mean, the first few games were ugly. Let's be honest here. But after that, he picked it up, and right now, the level he's currently playing at is what I was hoping we would see out of Dennis Smith Jr. in his first few months with the Pistons. He's aggressive.
Hasn't he only played like 5 games?
No, I'm saying like in general for the rest of the season.
Okay,
this is what I was expecting for the first few months he was going to be with the team. But the key takeaway that I've seen out of him is his aggressiveness. Still leaves a lot to be desired defensively, but that was to be expected. But offensively, he is a spark plug, and again, he does it with that tenacity and the aggressiveness, and it kind of flows to the rest of the team when you see your point guard play like that. And I'm sure everyone has seen the highlight by now against the Kings where he drove the lane, just tomahawked that thing hard. And I've seen a Pistons player tomahawk a ball in
since Jason McTeal.
Yeah, that's what I want to see more of from Dennis Smith Jr. Not saying that all I want is flashy dunks, but just that tenacity, and that's what he's shown, and that's what I've liked. So I'm happy with where he's at. Obviously, just continue working from there, continue building the jumper, continue at least trying to improve on defense, but.
I'm gonna kind of be in the same boat as you. I've liked what I've seen. I would really wish he would build upon the other aspects of his game a little bit, but maybe some of those are not really just are not part of his game. You know, he doesn't really show much of an ability to be a playmaker on offense, except for anyone but himself. He's very much a an aggressive shoot first point guard, creates his own shot, but doesn't really create much for his teammates. You see a lot of, I mean, I believe in one game I saw him put up like 8 points, no boards, no assists, like literally nothing but shooting himself. So I'd like to see that aspect of his game build a little bit, be able to recognize that, hey, if you're getting penetration into the lane, you're probably drawing the extra man. Find the open man on the wing or in the corner at that point. Yeah. And so I hope he can build upon that. But no, I like that there is someone who's playing with a little bit of assertiveness and tenacity and a guy with the ball. We haven't really gotten to see someone with high motor and aggression with the ball in their hands in the city in a long time. You know, we haven't really had that kind of player that is willing, especially coming from a guard position, that's willing to kind of get after it himself. And at times we saw Reggie Jackson do it, but whenever he did it, he just looked entirely out of control. So it's nice to see someone that's got that capability and is willing and confident in himself enough to do it. So there are a lot of positives to look at with Dennis Smith Jr. coming into town, and maybe he is a guy who can provide some scoring off the bench in the future. But I will say there is another player on the team who has been exciting to watch, has been a big time entertaining and happy surprise, and dare I say, creating a little bit of a position controversy at the point guard position for the future of this franchise, and it's Saben Lee. The way he is kind of, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even expect to see this guy on the floor in a Pistons uniform this season at all. I expected G League 100%.
Yeah, we saw like garbage time minutes a couple times earlier in the season, and that was it.
And we're seeing him in not necessarily starters minutes, but in extended minutes, scoring the ball almost at will. I think he had 13 points in the first half of one of these games.
Yeah, when the game that we were recording during, and
right, and
I ended up having just got the second half of that one, but
he put up 0 more points, if I recall.
Yeah.
But
I was like, so now I start watching this when you want to stop playing.
But I mean, he's been entertaining to watch. He's been, he's been effective, and that's a huge surprise. And if he is a guy that can, a surprise player that can be a part of the future of this franchise, that's a huge bonus. That's a second-round pick right there. Mm-hmm. Anytime you hit on a second-round pick to be a key part of the future of your organization, that's a lottery ticket. That's a winning lottery ticket right there. And if he continues to build his game and he's effective, I'd be ecstatic. Nothing but happiness and excitement. And it says a lot about the coaching staff and the ability of this front office to identify talent at that point. Obviously, it's very short work. It's very limited sample size. But what I've seen so far out of Saben Lee has been everything I would hope for and more.
Yeah, what I've loved from watching him is it's his poise. He shows the poise of a veteran on the floor, and the way he's able to run the offense, I did not expect that out of him. Honestly, I didn't really know what to expect out of him. I can't say I watched him play at Vanderbilt. I knew nothing about him when we drafted him. And then once we drafted him, all I knew about him was the highlight tape I watched off of YouTube. That was it. So I was pleasantly surprised to see how poised he was for a rookie. And now I just sit here and hope that he continues on this trajectory, and then we don't do him like we did Spencer Dinwiddie.
Speaking of Spencer Dinwiddie, we'll get back to him in a minute, but I do have one more question about Saben Lee. If we see Saben Lee continue to play at this level for the remainder of the year, going into next year, what do we do? With Killian Hayes coming back, Saben Lee playing at a level that we never expected.
And then Cade Cunningham guaranteed, right?
Sure. Well, please. What do we do? I mean, it's a great problem to have, but
you invested a 7th overall pick on Killian Hayes. You got you can't just dump that quickly. You gotta stick with him.
But he's got to earn his starting spot back.
He does, but what I'm worried about now is because you gave him a starting spot to begin with, like I'm starting to worry that if you decide to bring him off the bench when he comes back, it becomes like a demoralizing thing for him, and you just shatter his confidence.
But on the other side of the coin,
that's the dice you rolled when you decide to start him day one.
But on the other side of the coin there, if you decide to continue to give Killian Hayes that starting spot, and you've got Saben Lee, who has absolutely deserved it at that point.
Oh, Saben Lee should still be getting at least 20 minutes a game.
See, that wouldn't be enough for me. And I don't think it would be enough for him. If he's continued to play at the level that he has been so far, and you're only giving him 20 minutes a game and not starting him, I think that's a shot to the confidence. And I think that's a guy who can very quickly get very upset with his situation and say, did you not see the way I played the entire season this past year? Did you not see how much I earned and worked at this spot, and you're just going to dog me like that? That's creating that's creating a very negative locker room situation right there, and essentially pitting two players against each other, one of which has earned the spot, one of which has not. Killian Hayes has not earned the starting job in this city.
That's why I think it's going to be really interesting, because it's looking like Killian Hayes is nearing a return here. And that's why I think it's going to be very interesting to see how these two play, because I think Killian Hayes might be feeling the heat now that he's seen the entire rest of his rookie class on the Pistons really perform well, and now just all eyes are on him. You're the top dog, where are you at, kind of thing.
What are you expecting out of Killian Hayes when he comes back? I right away, I expect him to bring him back in very slowly. Like, I'm talking 10, 15 minutes a game at most.
That injury's not something you want to risk re-aggravating off the bat. You want to get him warmed up. So, yeah, I agree on that. But Killian Hayes, again, he's a guy he plays the game. He tries to bring the game down to his pace, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm expecting him to come out with at least a little more confidence than he had to start, because you could tell he was shaky. So I'm at least expecting that to be at least somewhat under his belt, and I'm expecting a couple new moves out of the arsenal outside just that one step back that he uses, which is it's still a really good step back jumper when it falls, and it's
which
really good
to
create Yeah, it's really it does a great job of creating separation. I'll give him that. But I'm expecting a few new moves out of the arsenal, and I'm hoping the shooting percentage goes up to make him a little more of a threat. Those are the three things that I'm looking at for Killian Hayes when he returns.
Well, I mean, that obviously is a tall order for a guy who really hasn't played much basketball even 100%. By himself in a while.
The first and foremost thing is confidence. I'm looking for more confidence. That's the primary thing.
I'll start and stop with that. I'm not going to be looking at him developing new moves just yet. Excuse me. I'm looking more for him to just be able to build that confidence back, to be a guy that the Pistons can rely on as a heavy minutes point guard and running the offense and developing the confidence and knowing what he's got to do on the floor, knowing what to do with the ball, and to have the confidence in his game. And I think that's really kind of step one, because he lacked that early in the year before he got hurt. Sometimes let the game go too quick for him in a lot of ways, and tried to overcompensate by trying to move quicker than the game and getting a little too far ahead of himself. And so I hope he's able to build that confidence back up and even further it more so than he had before he got hurt, to really get his game where it needs to be at this point in time. And then once he gets that confidence up where it needs to be, then I'd like to see him develop more of a secondary move or tertiary move, and then getting the jump shot to fall and things like that. Because again, when you're an NBA player and you're able to create that kind of separation with a move or two, the shot eventually is going to fall. And if it doesn't, well, you shouldn't be in this league. But it is eventually going to fall if you belong here. In any type of way. And
I agree. And that's kind of been the thing I've been holding on to this whole time when defending Killian Hayes. I'm like, he's not going to be shooting that poorly his entire career. I think it's more so early career jitters than anything.
I mean, if it doesn't ever end up falling, well, then he doesn't belong here, and he probably won't be here long if that's the case.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying, if it doesn't start falling, he ain't going to be here long. But I do believe it is going to start falling, because again, he's an NBA player. He's here for a reason. So I do think the shot's going to fall. He's got good move. He's got a good move, and hopefully he's able to utilize it, make and convert. So, But you mentioned Spencer Dinwiddie. Let's kind of change gears here and switch things over to that. A report came out that from several sources actually that Pistons.
The one I saw
involved.
was Ian Begley from SNY. That's the one.
Yes, I think that was the initial one who broke the story. But the Pistons are apparently involved in some trade talks with none other than the Brooklyn Nets, who are looking to add pieces to their current lineup as it is in their push for the playoffs and ultimately an NBA title. And one of the key pieces that they're looking at moving on from in order to gain some assets to this roster is none other than Spencer Dinwiddie, former Piston second-round pick, who has flourished in Brooklyn, who is out for the year, which is one of the reasons why the Nets are willing to move on from him, because they want to win now, and he ain't going to be a part of that, obviously. So reports are saying that the Pistons will be involved in trade talks for Spencer Dinwiddie. Andrew, how would you feel about the Pistons bringing back Spencer Dinwiddie?
As much as I love Spencer Dinwiddie, I don't like this at all. Not only that, I don't even buy this, to be honest with you, because it makes zero sense.
It wouldn't make any sense. The only reason it would make sense is it's a veteran presence on this team who knows the city and has been here.
But at the end of this year, I believe he has a $12.3 million player option. So either he opts into that or he opts out and looks for a long-term contract, which either one I don't like. So either you trade away pieces for a 2-month rental, or you're going to have to sign Spencer Dinwiddie to a long-term deal.
You'd be correct on the player option, by the way.
So I don't like either of those options. So, and I don't, again, right now, I think the Nets are going to be, I don't think if they're shipping Spencer Dinwiddie, I don't think they're going to be looking for a point guard. They're probably going to be looking for wings or a big man. And I don't want to give up anyone we have right now unless you're talking like Jahlil Okafor.
Mason Plumlee's a name who could potentially be involved in that.
But I like what Mason Plumlee's doing right
I mean,
now.
I do too, but is he really going to be a part of the future of this franchise? Probably not.
No.
Mason Plumlee's been a guy who's mentioned as...
Dinwiddie's not the guy I would want in return, because here's the thing.
I know. I'm just saying, like, Mason Plumlee is a guy that you would that's likely involved in trade talks with another team, just because he's been a hot name out there. He's performed above expectation, and he's probably a guy that the Pistons are going to look to move, and that would be an asset that the Nets would probably want to go after if they want to add pieces that are effective to their lineup now. So I'm talking from the Nets' perspective, not our perspective.
Yeah. Okay. And then, but in general, the fit of Spencer Dinwiddie also doesn't make sense, because you just drafted a rookie point guard in Killian Hayes. You have a rookie point guard who's actually starting to bud a little bit in Saben Lee, and then you have a reclamation project that's actually starting to pan out pretty well for you in Dennis Smith Jr. There's no reason to bring on Spencer Dinwiddie. He doesn't fit anywhere, especially when you also think about the chance that you might be drafting another point guard next year if you're in a position to take Cade Cunningham.
You're also looking at a situation where a lot of people are saying, well, maybe he can play the 2. Okay, then you're taking probably taking minutes away from guys like Josh Jackson, and Sadiq Bey at that point, which you don't want that either. Because, again, those, a reclamation project who has really started to look pretty nice in Josh Jackson, and a rookie in Sadiq Bey who has also started to look really nice. So Spencer Dinwiddie coming into this situation just doesn't make any sense at all. Plus, you mentioned the player option next year. By the time this team is probably going to be starting to play winning basketball, he's going to be, 31, 32 years old? So at the end of his prime, maybe, or nearing the end of his prime?
He has the same window as Jeremy Grant. It's just the more people you add of that window, the smaller your own window is.
Exactly. Kind of, and I don't see why it would make a lot of sense, because I do, like you mentioned, I do think it would hinder it would temper the growth of some of these guys between the reclamation projects and the rookies. It would stunt their growth in a lot of ways, because it's minutes taken away from them that we don't need. And also, adding Spencer Dinwiddie this year, of course, obviously he's out for the year, but is he going to opt into that contract next year? Maybe it's a situation where you're trying to get the expiring money. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, especially if you're going to have to give up draft capital. And even if you're not giving up draft capital to get them, it doesn't make sense to me if you're giving up guys like Mason Plumlee, who you could get draft capital for.
Yeah,
I'd rather get the draft capital for guys like Mason Plumlee than
I'll feel like I'm giving up draft capital if I give up Mason Plumlee.
Right, exactly. So it just makes zero sense to me. Plus, honestly, it kind of would be like a slap in the face a little bit, because it's like we let this guy leave for nothing. Like we just let him go when he flourishes elsewhere, and now we're begging him back and having to pay for him to come back. No, thank you. I don't want any part of that. That's just embarrassing.
I'd officially be lost on what Troy Weaver's doing if this move is made.
He would be off the rails of the track that I had him going on. So
that's all I've got to say on that, though.
Same here. I don't like the idea at all. Let's just put a big red X over that one and move on to the Lions here. Sound good?
All right. Yeah, let's talk about our trade then. So Mel Kiper put out his latest mock draft, and he has the Lions moving out of number 7, trading with the San Francisco 49ers to move back to number 12, Plus, they acquired the Niners' second-round pick, number 43 overall, and their first-round pick in 2022. With our seventh pick, the Niners selected Justin Fields. With the Niners pick, we selected Micah Parsons. Do you like
it?
Okay. I was debating asking you, do you like it or do you think like this is an actual?
Do you like it or love it? No, I absolutely love it. And the reason being is Micah Parsons is a guy that I've talked about the Lions potentially targeting at number 7 anyways. Two,
I don't know why my mind wanted to say Micah Hyde. Like I had to stop myself and go, nope, Micah Parsons.
Like there's a possibility. I've heard that there's potentially a chance for the Lions to get another first-round pick out of this trade, as opposed to adding a second-round pick and a third-round pick from the Niners next year, adding the Niners first-round pick next year instead of the multiple picks.
Yeah, that's what this trade is. It's number 43, number 12, number 43, and next year's first.
Oh, I thought it was 12, 43, and next year's third.
No, next year's first.
Oh. That's even better. Yes, 100% win to move back 2 spots to get Micah Parsons. Hell yeah. I don't see a downfall with this trade because let's be real here. Mm-hmm. You don't need to draft a quarterback this year. Mm-hmm. One. So you don't, and the guy you may want may not be there at number 7. They're saying Justin Fields will be there. You know, that's fine and dandy. 2, you mean to tell me that we will have 5 first-round picks and then over the next 2 drafts after this one?
3 in 2022 alone.
And 2 in 2023. Like that's how you rebuild a roster.
Yep.
Go look at the Miami Dolphins and their ass load of draft first-round picks.
Albeit
rebuild a roster.
Albeit if Fields pans out, I expect that Niners pick to be also back in the first round. But still.
I don't care. I don't care because your pick will probably be at the front of the first round. You got 2 back-end first-round picks. You can still get great assets out of that because probably in the front end of the first round with your pick, you grab your quarterback and then you build with everywhere else with the late first-round picks. And not to mention, you also get another second-round pick this year. Mm-hmm. So that adds to draft capital this season. I don't see a downfall here. I see nothing but absolute success from this trade happening because – like I said, we also get the guy I mentioned as a potential target for the Lions at linebacker at number 7. Mm-hmm. So it's a guy I already like at number 7, and I move back 2 spots to get him, and I also get another first-round pick and second-round pick. Sign me up.
I can picture.
Personally thank the 49ers front office for this myself. Like I will personally go and thank them, and then rush the pick to the podium.
I can already picture Brad Holmes calling up John Lynch. Hey John, did you see that Mel Kiper mock draft? What'd you think?
What'd you think? You like that idea? I like that idea.
John Lynch proceeds to hang up.
Do we need to get John Lynch and Brad Holmes and a what was it? Tijuana like a Mexican diner, whatever it was, where Stafford and Stafford and Sean McVay had their little meeting. Do we need to get them together to hash this out? Oh man,
let's arrange it.
What?
Let's arrange it.
All right, let's do it.
We'll do one of those old switcheroos where you tell them they're meeting somebody else, and then they each show up.
I'll call up Sheila Ford, get the plans in motion. Let's do it. No, I absolutely think this would be a home run situation for the Lions. Like I said, you already are going after Micah Parsons as a possibility at number 7 to move back 2 spots, still get him, and you add high-end draft capital to go with it. I see 0 downsides to this trade. The one possible downside is if Justin Fields does pan out in this scenario. Again, I personally do not believe Justin Fields will be available at number 7, but if he is and he does pan out to be a really good quarterback, obviously you're going to have your naysayers and your what ifs or shoulda, coulda, wouldas out there all over the place because, again, it's a top tier quarterback at that point. But that's a big if on Justin Fields. Big if. There's a big if on every quarterback in this draft. And except for maybe Trevor Lawrence, but even he has, even he's going to have the big ifs attached to him because he's a rookie quarterback. We've seen number 1s fail before, even ones as highly touted as Trevor Lawrence is.
And also the other plus side is if you look at the teams drafting after that 7 spot, like between 7 and 12. I mean,
12, not 9.
Yeah, there's a legitimate reason to believe that Micah Parsons will drop down.
Oh,
to 12.
100%.
I mean,
like I said,
the only team I can see that I can even make an argument to draft Parsons is Denver Broncos, and even that's me trying to force it.
Right.
So,
no, like I've said several like I've said in the past, I've seen Micah Parsons, if he doesn't get drafted inside that top 7 or 8, he falls to the mid-teens. Like it's he falls a lot because those teams just aren't in the need of a linebacker at that point. There may be some teams willing to just go best player available at their spots, but there's a really high likelihood that he does fall into the teens if he's not taken by the Lions or whoever at number 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'd be ecstatic to move back to get him. Would you regret it if the Lions had Justin Fields on the board to them and traded away, though?
No. And here's why. It's not because I don't like Justin Fields, because I actually do, and it's not because I'm in love with Jared Goff, because I'm not. It's just the what can be with those 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years that would make me get over not taking Justin Fields there at 7. I'm sure there's going to be a quarterback in one of these next 2 drafts, and I'm going to like just as much as Justin Fields that we could probably use those picks to move up to get.
No, 100%. I agree with you as well. Yeah. I think that you give yourself a luxury of having 5 first-round picks over the following 2 years that most teams don't have. And most teams will be, you have so much flexibility at that point. You can utilize 2 or 3 of those picks and go up to number 2 if you want. Like, you have so much flexibility to make sure you get the guy. Like, you have the ultimate flexibility because you are able to trade up as high as you want to make sure you get the quarterback that you want. You want to go to number 1? You got the draft capital to do it, I promise you.
Yeah.
Like, it gives you so much power in the draft having that many draft picks in the first round.
Now just get Troy Weaver in that room and let him do his feeling and dealing. There's one big downside of this for me, though. Now, no matter what happens in the draft, I'm going to be like, what about the Niners trade? I'm going to be disappointed because it's not going to be this.
This, like I said, this pretty much is like the grand slam of trades. So you're not wrong. I think Mel Kiper could have been sipping a little of something when he came up with this, because I really do think it's kind of a pipe dream. But if it happens...
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on here. I don't know if it was Mel Kiper or Todd McShay or whoever said something the other day. I want to say it was yesterday or today, that the Lions would be wise to build around Jared Goff and have him be the quarterback that they build with. How do you feel about that? Do you think Jared Goff is the quarterback that the Lions should be building around right now?
No. If he was a quarterback to build around, you would have seen it already. It's just it's why I'm not buying into this.
Technically speaking, he was. He's been to the Pro Bowl 2 times. He's been to a Super Bowl. That's a quarterback you can argue building around.
And that's what I'm saying. But with the Rams, even in his Pro Bowl year, I was not impressed with what Goff was doing. His best year was when he had a 1,800 yard, 2,000 yard rush behind him in Ty Gurley. Like, we're not going to give him that. We don't have that to give him.
DeAndre Swift could be that. He could be a 1,500-yard guy. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility.
It's not outside the realm of possibility. I'm not putting my chips on that.
No, though. I wouldn't either. This is the Lions we're talking about.
There's nothing about Jared Goff himself as a quarterback that's shown me that this is the guy to build around for our future. This is the guy that's going to take us to the promised land. Like, it's just not. I just don't see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm too pessimistic.
I don't disagree with you, but I also don't think Sean McVay and the way that organization was run really did him any favors in LA, especially in the last couple of years. I think what you saw with Jared Goff in the years where he did make his Pro Bowls and go to the Super Bowl, I do think you can potentially see a glimmer of that with him in the future. I mean, he threw in 2018, he made the Pro Bowl. They went 13-3. He threw for 4,688 yards, had 32 touchdowns and 12 picks. Like, that's a damn good year, and that's numbers that I would build around. As if I was a GM, I'd be perfectly happy building around that.
That's the same year that Todd Gurley was facing 9-man boxes. So you got to give and take with that.
Yes, but you can also make the argument that running backs don't win championships. Running backs are a dime a dozen. So
they don't win
regardless of
championships, but
regardless
they
of
can
what
really
he's
open
facing,
up your passing attack.
Regardless of what he's facing, is he actually going to be? Is it worth actually worrying about? Like Todd Gurley that year had 1,251 yards and 17 touchdowns. Yes, that's obviously a great year for running back. He was an All-Pro, but just as much as running backs help quarterbacks also help running backs in a lot of ways. Oh, you can't if you don't have a passing attack, trust me, your running game ain't going nowhere because you will be facing nine-man boxes. I don't think Todd Gurley really saw the 9-man boxes until the following year, 2019. But
so we saw it the year before and that year. That year is the year he finally was able to be like, you know what, I can do this. Like I remember, I think I had him in fantasy. Was it 2016 or 2017? I had him in fantasy, and he just could not find running room because he was facing those 9-man boxes every game.
2016 is when the next year 185 yards.
I think that was the year I had him, and then I think 2017 was when he finally busted out.
2017 was his best season. He had 1,300 yards. Yes.
Yep.
Either way, though, I think also. See, thing is his Todd Gurley's best years also coincide with Jared Goff's 2 best years. The two Pro Bowl years for Todd Gurley are the same 2 years that Jared Goff's Pro Bowl years were. So I do think it was a situation where they helped each other. In 2016, I think wasn't that still a Jeff Fisher year for half of it? Because Goff only played
2016 was a Jeff Fisher year, yes.
Yeah, and Jared Goff played 7 games.
That man ruined my life.
And that man
destroyed my first round
ruined
pick.
Jared Goff's life too. So obviously at that point, nobody was doing well in 2016. Sean McVay came in 2017, and all of a sudden the offense was a completely different ballgame. So you could argue Jared Goff made Todd Gurley the man that he was able to be. You could very easily argue that. You could argue Sean McVay did it for both of them. Let's be real.
That's true. I'd probably stake my claim in Sean McVay. But
I would probably too. But then again, looking at it now, is it Sean McVay that really did it, or was it 2 guys that were able to find success with each other, and then one started to deteriorate?
You could argue circles around this all day. Like it's right. It's like what came first, chicken or the egg?
Right.
Like,
it's the chicken or the egg argument, 100%. Except now we have a breeder involved too. Yeah. But either way, I can see. Where, again, I don't remember who it was, Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, I don't know who it was, but I can see where they're coming from. If you're able to bring back what Jared Goff was able to give you in 2017, or give the Rams in 2017, 2018, I'd build around that 100%. Mm-hmm. But I need to see it before I'm willing to commit to that. Am I saying you have to go get a quarterback now because I don't trust it? No, I'm willing to give him a year to try to be for us to be willing to commit to it. Like I'm willing to. This year for Jared Goff is a big one in my book because this is where I need to see it. If I don't see it this year, guess what? I'm going quarterback next draft. Mm-hmm. But this draft, I don't absolutely have to.
Now, here's an interesting twist. I don't know if you saw this, but this is from Timothy Rapp, Bleacher Report. It's sounding like Brad Holmes may actually be a bit enamored with the quarterbacks this year.
That was such a good segue.
My
God, I gave you the oop and you slammed it down. Oh.
Or it's a giant smoke screen. Let me give you the quote and you tell me what you think. So this is from Brad Holmes speaking to reporters today, Tuesday. The quarterback position in general, what's cool about this year is that they're in all different flavors. You have a guy that can actually do it all. Do it from the pocket, do it with his legs. That's what she said. You have another guy that probably a little bit more does it with his legs, a little bit more of being creative. There's another guy who probably does it more from the pocket. So all the different flavors make it very, very intriguing in terms of when you're looking across the whole scope of the class of these quarterbacks. So again, nothing's saying like, hey, we're taking the quarterback this year, but he does seem pretty enamored with these quarterbacks. Do you think that this is a signal of, we might be looking quarterback, or do you think this is just a whole lot of nothing?
I think it's a whole lot of nothing. This is Brad Holmes standing in front of a fire, just waving a box and just letting smoke go nuts. And the reason I believe that
he
is
say do it with his legs. Another guy can do it a little more with his legs. One guy can do it from the pocket. This guy can do it more from the pocket. Like it wasn't exactly.
It was
like
extremely
a scientific
generic
breakdown
things.
Of
like he never said Trey Lance does this, and this so well, and it fits into our system because of this, and this. Like it was this guy does this guy does that. Oh, and that guy over there, yeah, he looks real good too. It was extremely overhead and generic, and almost too much so that it's like, all right, we ain't buying shit.
Yeah,
but like. No, I 100% believe it's a smokescreen. We've been talking about the Lions putting up a smokescreen when it came to the quarterback position in this draft for a little while now, because that trade value at that spot is so high, and the Lions could look to move back a few spots and add more draft capital because that's what their motive is right now. That's what they want to do. They want to add draft assets so that they can rebuild this thing as quickly as possible, and that's the way to do it, and that's the way they've said they want to do it. So absolutely do I think the Lions are just trying to blow smoke out there to get teams to bite and try to move up to get a quarterback and move into the Lions spot. 100% do I think the Lions are trying to make teams think they want to go after a quarterback and juice it up a little bit. For 1 second, don't believe that the Lions are overly in love with any quarterback in this draft outside of Trevor Lawrence, and they ain't getting him. So, because how could you be? Like, sure, Trey Lance has these intangibles, but he played one football game this year for a D2 school. And Mac Jones, he's great in the pocket, but he also had elite level wide receivers, big man offensive line, like an NFL offensive line, an NFL running back in Najee Harris. And oh, by the way, he literally has zero mobility. So there's one big downfall. And you look at Kyle Trask, even worse mobility than Mac Jones. And then you look at, and then going off with Zach Wilson, he played at BYU and sometimes did not look great. Other times looked fantastic. Yeah. So very inconsistent. And Justin Fields, well, you know the whole story about Ohio State quarterbacks going in the draft. So I don't know how you can be enamored with this quarterback class. I don't.
I'm hearing Trey Lance's, if I missed you saying it, forgive me, but I'm hearing Trey Lance's stock is slipping a bit too with GMs. I don't know. I think it's all, again, still based on the very small sample size. I think it's still.
It probably is, but I also think this is the time where, like, you really start to see the totally untrue, undeserved, and straight up unfair reports come out about GMs saying this and that about quarterbacks, and I've even seen it with Trevor Lawrence, and it's prospect fatigue is what it's called. It's this guy is so good, there's zero negatives in his game, so let's just bring up random bullshit that's overly specific and makes zero sense and isn't even true to try to knock him down a peg or two. And and I think that's a little bit of what's happening because we are continuing to talk about the same four guys because nobody else really in the conversation. And we are getting a little bit tired of it. So that's where you start to see that prospect fatigue come out, and in the crypto world they call it FUD. They call it FUD talk. It's bullshit in my mind. I really don't know that it's true.
But yeah, just taking it back to the topic, you know what this is, right? This is Brad Holmes doing what he has to do to get John Lynch on the phone, and that's how you bring things back. This is the Fan Report, guys. We'll be here all night.
All right, we'll see you next week, folks. No, I completely agree with you. I do think this is Brad Holmes doing what he's got to do. He's trying to create excitement around that number 7 pick, trying to get teams to battle and fight to go after that pick and give up as much draft capital to get it as possible. If they want a quarterback, it's him sitting at the auction block going, all right, I got a first round pick over here, second round pick over here, third round pick over here. All right, do I hear this? And you know, he's trying to increase this auction price and get as much draft capital for that pick as he wants.
Two first and a second.
My God. And I could be entirely wrong, and we could just be, stupid. Maybe they will take quarterback. I don't know. I really have no idea. Let's be honest. But I do think this is entirely a smokescreen by Brad Holmes, and I hope he makes it a little bit more believable. Mm-hmm. But he better have his top scouts. Look at these
shiny quarterbacks. This guy can do it from the pocket. Look, this guy can do it with his legs. Look, this guy can do it even more with his legs.
I will say this. He better have his top scouts at any workout that any of these quarterbacks do. If he wants to make this believable, he has to. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's obviously a smokescreen. And I think Bob Quinn fall into that trap one time where he talked about this one quarterback so much and how much he loved him, and then he didn't even send a scout to his workout. And then you're
not
like,
familiar,
wait,
but
what?
I can see it happening.
So no, I definitely think. I almost said Bob Quinn. I definitely think Brad Holmes is just trying to drum up a little bit of excitement around that number 7 pick to try to bring in some trade.
You gotta sell it. You gotta commit. I don't care. You're sitting there at 7. He's there. You got to take him. You gotta sell it.
You got to make teams believe that you want them.
You got to take them. That's how you sell it.
You just draft them. Yeah. I already took this guy, but do you want him?
Hey, that's what we wanted to do with Tua. So.
Yeah, it was. Well, then again, I actually wanted Tua as the quarterback of the future of this team. That's a different story.
Yeah, that too.
But so I heard totally off topic at this point. It isn't even literally isn't even Lions related, but I've been hearing a lot of talk about Allen Robinson and his free agency situation and where he could potentially go. And a team that I've heard come up the most has been the Baltimore Ravens. And honestly, at that point, I feel so damn bad for that guy. Because he goes from having...
that can throw me the ball. Jesus.
Seriously, he goes from having an inaccurate and terrible quarterback in Jacksonville, and Blake Bortles, I believe, is who was there then. Mm-hmm. And then he goes over to Arizona. Did I say Arizona or Jacksonville? I meant Jacksonville.
Yeah,
and then,
you said Jacksonville.
Okay. And then where did he go after Jacksonville? Was it Chicago?
Yes.
And then he goes to Chicago.
Those are the only two teams he's played for.
Okay. And then he goes to Chicago where he's got Mitch Trubisky throwing him the ball, which...
Yeah.
Bleh. And now you're going to throw him over in Jacksonville with Lamar Jackson, who, mind you, is probably the best of the three, but still can't hit the broadside of a barn. Like, dude can't throw inside the pocket at all. So I'd feel so bad for Allen Robinson, who arguably is one of the best wide receivers at getting open in the league, especially downfield, and nobody can hit him. Like, he's probably, if I was him, I would
tell him to come back to hometown. Tell him to come back to the hometown. Come back
Absolutely.
to Detroit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do we have a quarterback that can hit him? If I were Allen Robinson, I would tell my agent, look, just get me a quarterback that can hit me. And don't try to sell me on no bullshit that, somebody's getting better. No, find me a guy that can hit me. That's all I care about. Oh, man. Where do you think Deshaun Watson goes?
That's a great question.
So I'm going
to go Chicago.
Really? I think
the team that originally was supposed to take him.
I think it's going to be either Miami or Carolina. I do. And the reason I say that is because both teams have done a lot of work to create the cap space to bring him in.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea what Chicago's cap situation is.
I don't either. I'll be honest with you. I don't either. But I think Chicago's kind of stuck with Mitch Trubisky for a while. I'm not going to lie. But I think that Miami or Carolina is doing some serious work to create extra cap space.
I know Miami's doing work. I didn't know Carolina was.
Carolina cut like 7 players to free up cap space to bring in Deshaun Watson.
I just wasn't buying that they're giving up on Tua that quickly. That was my whole thing with Miami.
I mean, Tua would probably be involved in the trade. In all reality,
you'd have to be.
And honestly, after reports I heard last year about players in the locker room itself being split on Tua. I don't think it's that crazy to think they'd be willing to part with him. There were a lot of players last year that wanted Ryan Fitzpatrick as the quarterback in that locker room on that team.
Well, just seeing the on-field product, it made sense for Ryan Fitzpatrick to stay as quarterback.
It did.
I also didn't mind letting Tua get his sea legs.
No, absolutely not. But either way,
that's everything I got for today.
That's everything I got as well. That pretty much covers it. We thank you guys for listening this week. We'll be back next week. As always, thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. Thank you to you, Andrew, as well. And thank you guys. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. Let us know of any topics or if you want to debate with us about anything. And give us your thoughts on Saben Lee's performance.
Does John Lynch have a Twitter? Everybody spam John Lynch's Twitter.
Yes, and go after John Lynch and tell him to make the trade. Make it happen. Let's talk, big boy. Let's talk. But anyways, guys, thank you again. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
We'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one.